Good evening. Ireland's Six Nations squad has been announced, and we want to hear from you at home. What do you make of Joe Schmidt's selection? Are you pissed off by any omissions, or how do you feel about it? I am Gavan Casey. I'm joined by Sean Farrell of the 42.ie. Sean, what do you make of it?
I think it's a pretty solid squad, Gav. We sat around here all day waiting on the squad, expecting it maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. 5 o'clock eventually came, and so did the squad, and everyone kind of looked at it and goes, yeah, that's pretty much about right.
Yeah, we've been planning this all day, to be totally honest, though I suppose the plan was born of, predictions of widespread outrage at controversial omissions or possibly even controversial inclusions, and yet when we looked at the squad it was kind of like, that seems about right, actually. We want to hear from you guys. As I mentioned, we will give away this Ireland training top to anybody who, not anybody who comments, there is only one, but whoever has the best comment, we'll select that later on. Let us know who you feel maybe should have been included that wasn't, or perhaps, if you want to be cruel, if there's somebody in there that you reckon shouldn't be, feel free to voice that as well. I suppose if we were to look ourselves at players that are a little bit unlucky to miss out, Sean, John Cooney he can probably consider himself unfortunate, and yet when you look at the scrum halves included, Conor Murray, Kieran Marmion and Luke McGrath, it's probably not a huge shock to see Cooney isn't in the squad either. Yeah,
Cooney was probably the one guy that you would have thought did most to push for a place in the squad, but those three scrum halves that are there, like Kieran Marmion has done so much work behind the scenes to work his way into Joe Schmidt's pecking order, and really had to prove himself even before coming off the bench against Wales when Conor Murray was eventually replaced with that dicky shoulder. And obviously Luke McGrath's in sensational form, can't stop scoring tries for Leinster. He's scrum half for the best team in Europe. It's very difficult to leave him out. But Cooney, he's been in a tough position all season. He's been in a bad Ulster team that have not been playing very well, very consistently, whatever way you want to put it, and he's just been a shining light for them, really. I mean, making that move up north, probably not the easiest decision in the world to make, although he backed himself to be a starting scrum half, but he's made that transition from Ruan Pienaar seamless. But as you say, you can understand why he's left out with the scrum halves that are there. The other mission, you might say, Stuart McCluskey. But again, he's one of these guys that Joe Schmidt just hasn't really fancied. Whenever he's had him in, he's given him a go here and there. Well, England away.
Yeah, that was that his
in
first
November
test start?
Again. Yeah, his first test start was England away, and then he's back in November, and now he's out again. And you just think, there's something there, despite his sheer size and heft and the lines he's capable of breaking. There's a lot there that Joe would like him to improve on, I think.
Yeah, so the Cooneys and the McCluskeys may be the only people in the country disappointed at the moment. Maybe obviously there are Ulster fans who feel slightly aggrieved in that regard. What about Tiernan O'Halloran? Again, this is kind of a case, I think, of, like, if you look at the players that are available to play fullback in that Ireland squad, and also take into account that Simon Zebo isn't there, given he's moving to Racing. So you've got, like, Rob Kearney, who obviously maybe some people watching at home will be like, oh, how can he be in it? He's not going to be there for the World Cup. He's so old, even though he's actually playing solid rugby and has proved, I think, over in November that he can still be trusted to start big test games for Ireland. You've got the young fella Larmer. I mean, the boy wonder. There seems to be one coming out of Leinster now once every 4 or 5 months. He could potentially do damage if he's let off the leash, probably against Italy more so than France, you'd expect. But you also have, say, Andrew Conway who could cover there, maybe Jacob Stockdale at a push. So it's difficult, really. I mean, O'Halloran scored a superb try at the weekend, obviously, for Connacht, but it's probably difficult over the course of the season to justify his inclusion certainly over Kearney or Larmer, I suppose, as the out-and-out fullbacks in the squad.
Yeah, Larmer has probably taken that place of the flair fullback option. If Joe really wanted something very different, Larmer's going to be the guy he goes to now, whereas Tiernan was kind of banging a lonely drum for a long time as that option, and got in South Africa, played well. I think he was injured when Willie LaRue got his red card, but again, limited opportunities, and there just seems to be so much. All the players talk about details with Joe, and again, it's another McCluskey. while he can be sensational week to week in Pro 14 and for Connacht, if there's something that Joe sees in you that he keeps going back to you and getting you to work on and improve, and when there's someone as solid as Rob carrying ahead of you, it's very difficult to actually get the game time to make those improvements.
Yeah, it's you mentioned it there, and I think it's like, certainly for the casual rugby observer at home, and even maybe more ardent fans of the sport, often Schmidt will feel left down by a minor detail that to the naked eye, like it is invisible. Like remember what was it? Craig Gilmore scored a hat-trick in Rome. I mean, he only had a cameo, obviously. It didn't even seem as though he had to do anything defensively given the pattern of the game at that time. And yet afterwards, Schmidt was like, could have done a little bit better here and there. And he obviously sees things that many other people don't see. Players like McCluskey, O'Halloran, like even Zebo to an extent has over the years kind of fallen foul of Schmidt's keen eye for detail. Yeah,
I completely forgot about Zebo. Obviously, as that flair full-back option, it is that thing we forget quite quickly. Even now, we're looking at names in the squad with only 3-4 caps to their name, and we're thinking, it's a straightforward squad. What was your question again?
Can't remember, Sean.
I veered off track.
I suppose just the fact that it is often the flair players, maybe not necessarily McCluskey, although he is, can be delicate with his hands when he wants to be, but often the flair players sort of draw the ire of Schmidt by missing some kind of tiny detail in a game that maybe not to yourself, Sean, I won't accuse you of it, but to the more casual fan at home might be kind of not so easily perceptible.
Yeah, there is absolutely that. That's the detail Joe says. But I suppose, like, we always get caught up in omissions and why this player and that player is now. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Rory Scannell's got in there. It's great news. I think he really should have been included in November, but Joe went with Stuart McCluskey on that occasion and went with 4 centres who are pretty beefy options that all offer a lot of the same things, shall we say, although they have the hands as well. But I think Rory really offers something different. He can cover 10 as well, as he showed on the summer tour last year. So he has that handling and distribution that could give a very different centre option if it comes to it, maybe against Italy. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how Ireland decide to line up in the centre. We want to hear from you guys at home, so if you do have a hot or not so hot take on Ireland's Six Nations squad, please do drop us a comment. We are giving away an Ireland training jersey to whatever the best comment is. Andrew Martin has been in touch here, Sean. He says, fully supportive of Joe Schmidt's decision, but strange to see Fergus McFadden and Rob Herring. Disappointed with John Cooney, who has had a tremendous season for us. So we mentioned Cooney there. Strange to see Fergus McFadden and Rob Herring. I'm not sure how supportive you are, really, Andrew, of Joe Schmidt's. Nah, what are you joking? But I think McFadden, certainly in the past, I've looked at McFadden and Ireland squads. I remember that same game. I think it was the game where McCluskey started in Twickenham, where McFadden started on the wing, Zebo was on the bench, and it seemed like a game that was crying out for Zebo. This was back when he was kind of operating off the wing more so than a full back. And often McFadden can be kind of a frustrating figure to see in an Ireland team, in that I suppose to most of us it seems like there's a ceiling to what he can do, and yet the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, I think he's been playing arguably the best rugby of his career. Yeah, and we talked about Joe's details. I mean, McFadden really is one of those guys. He's so diligent. He seems to know every facet of play, and he does so many. A lot of wingers would call them niggly things, and it's by no means a detraction of his ability. But he is like having an extra flanker on the field at times. Like, he's such a hard working, and again, that's not disparaging at all, because the physicality and the pace that he's shown over the last 2 months has been something that we probably haven't seen from him in a good few years. So yeah, he's not a surprising inclusion at all. I think the way he's played since November, I think Sean Cronin is another one who has really he took that November omission with he took it the right way, I suppose, and you could see even he was playing, I think, Dragons at home, which is a horrible fixture at any time of year, but he was playing them during the November internationals, and he just broke tackle after tackle. He looked like a freak of nature going into tackles, a man possessed, and it was mystifying to see him out of the squad in November, and but he certainly justified a recall along with Rob Herring. Let's not be too cruel on Rob Herring, Andrew. Yeah, what I like about Fergus McFadden is that he's one of the few outside backs remaining in the modern game who
you will regularly see sporting a headband. You just know he's been stuck in somewhere, you know what I mean? There is a comment here from PJ Rayner. Evening, PJ. How are things? He says, Keatley playing better but still making lots of mistakes. Why not Byrne, who has more potential? Look, I suppose it's a fair enough point about both Keatley playing better and still making the odd mistake. I thought there were a couple of certainly errant kicks in Paris at the weekend, and even a couple, sometimes the timing of his pass seemed a tiny bit off, like where he was kind of maybe shifting too far sideways before releasing the ball, etc. That being said, given the game time he's getting from Munster, I presume this is a decision that comes down to game time more so than the potential of Byrne. I know Byrne has played plenty, but he's not playing week in, week out to the same extent that Keatley has, and also Keatley's probably used to, say, backs moves and things like that in Carton House. Yeah,
he's played an awful lot of minutes for us, Byrne, and he has been terrific for Leinster. I think what it probably comes down to, along with Ian Keatley being in brilliant form, and I suppose there's mistakes coming from every player, having two backup out halves who are both 22, 23, I think would be a step too far. So having Ian there as an experienced head, he's been in and around Six Nations squad before, and I think he'll be on the bench against France as well, if the worst comes to the worst, and France attack Johnny Sexton like they did the last time we were in Paris, then I think he's the man Joe wants to turn to.
Well, no Bastero this time, so Johnny can sleep easy for the next couple of weeks. Evelyn Thiessen, I apologise if I butchered that. Evelyn just says, can't wait, the team is good, bring it on. We might as well go home. I think that really does sum it up. Craig Lyons, this is actually in response to PJ Rayner's comment about Ross Byrne. He says, PJ, Leinster wouldn't have any 10s left. Who are you going to start? Cathal Marsh? Very cruel laughing emojis there from Craig. I suppose looking ahead to this opener then, Shawnee, what do you reckon? Like, I mean, if you go back to our last game in Paris, it was a game where we probably fancied ourselves, which is always dangerous when you're going to Paris, and it was literally down to Irish mistakes. Say Robbie Henshaw, maybe a little bit inexperienced at that time, kind of jumping out of the line. We conceded try. I think we lost that 10-9. Crap game. How do we avoid it this time around, particularly given we were kind of caught in the hop the first game this time last year?
Yeah, when you add all those things up, it's something to worry about.
Thank God Evelyn points out we have a good team, because otherwise I'd be starting to doubt myself here.
Yeah. Listen, you never know which rant I'm going to turn up. No. I mean, it's almost going back to that, because they've changed coaches. Jack Brunel has come in, taken over from Guy Noves, who was having a torrid time, and you do think that this will be a different France than we've seen in November, that we've seen kind of languish from game to game. They were absolutely horrible in South Africa over the summer. I think it's going to be a war again, and I think it's going to be another tight one try game is probably going to make all the difference. I think when you look through that squad, I think you can pick out the experienced grizzled heads that are going to start. I don't think there's going to be any room for Jordan Larmour starting this game. I think it is purely a game for all the guys that have been there, done it before. Possible exception of Jacob Stockdale, who has obviously proven himself in an Irish jersey over the course of the last year. But yeah, I think it's one for the hard old heads. Yeah,
it's a huge missed opportunity not getting to hear the Parisians pronounce Jordan Larmour's surname.
It'd be beautiful. Way better than we do it.
It really would be. Willie Moore says Sean O'Brien, a huge loss. I mean, it really goes without saying. Like, I suppose Ireland have enough depth in the back row where possibly you'd hope that at the end of these two games, the fact that O'Brien is injured is almost forgotten, without being cruel to Sean, obviously, who's been monumental for the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point setting him out patched up and on one leg or on one hip, as the case might be. I mean, it looked like this was going to be a season for Dan Levy to break through, and it may yet still be. He got some injuries at the wrong time, and then Josh van der Fleer comes back, makes those 34 tackles against Connacht, and I think we're blessed in the back row, and even that open side now, it wasn't always the case where we were blessed with a backup for Sean O'Brien, who's probably our most important player. Toss of a coin maybe between him and Sexton, but he's a loss, but we're actually pretty well stocked. You put him together with Heaslip being out, and you think teams will try and target us there, but again, CJ Stander he's going to play there. Peter O'Mahony, like there is no weak point. Say when you actually see Ireland's back row on paper, you can look at who's missing and think maybe there's an area we can be exploited. But then you see us actually take the field with that Munster 6-8 and whatever Leinster 7 Joe decides to take on as well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, like you can attempt to target Ireland there, but we've seen probably over the Christmas period Irish players target each other there, kind of vying for spots. I mean, I thought Dan Levy destroyed Peter O'Mahony in Thomond Park on Stephen's Day, for example. We'll have to see, obviously, where Schmidt goes with that one at 7. David O'Shaughnessy, you mentioned Jamie Heaslip there. David O'Shaughnessy says, isn't it time the IRFU had a look at who qualifies for central contracts? For example, Jamie Heaslip. You can't cut his contract while the man is...
For example, Jamie Heaslip. Yeah, I'm not sure how many games he missed through injury when he actually signed the contract. I'd say it would be in the very low figures.
I think the low zeros.
Yeah. So yeah, very harsh to call him on that now. And they say they're taking it week by week, and he might be back any day now. I don't know. We'll see when he comes back. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah, very harsh to. He's contracted through till 2019 as well, so you can't write that off easily.
Yeah, you can't write it off. I still fear for him when we play Scotland after that fist pump when the World Cup draw was made.
I think Gregor Townsend will have that on the wall. He'll have a gif for a Jamie Heaslip emoji.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. So that's pretty much it from us. Keep your comments flowing in. As I said, we have an Ireland training jersey to give away. So even if the video is finished, you're watching later on, do drop a comment. We will be picking a winner later tonight. Sean, thanks a million.
Thanks, Gav. Thanks for having me.
Thanks to you guys at home as well, and cheers for everyone for commenting. And thanks I never thank Owen Luke, our cameraman over there on the side. Thank you, Owen Luke. Cheers, we'll be back soon. Take care.